Hi. Are you joining us, Colin? If you want, okay. See?
No, I think he was just accidentally joining us, but
hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday.
Monday.
It is Monday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and we are going to see, and yes, happy Memorial. Well, I wouldn't exactly call Memorial Day a happy day. Just say that it is a day of remembrance. But what we are going to see, being that it is a holiday, and the fact that we know how strong our numbers were on Thursday, it is going to be reflective in whether or not there is a difference between the audience size on Mondays versus Thursdays.
I don't know. Too many variables. Is it a particular Monday? Is it just a regular Monday versus Thursday? Like, this is one of those things that is so hard to measure because there's so many variables. It could be content related. It could be there's so many things. That's why it's hard to really know. And we just got to do what we got to do, which is how we ended up having the nights we have. I mean, it was trial and error, but to some extent, you got to just do something.
Well, I think consistency is always going to be key. And obviously with our clips growing in much more consistent fashion, which is obviously good. And it's great to see you guys all here. I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly. I don't think Jen thought it was going to happen in her lifetime. But for some strange reason, in the course of a month, we have grown almost 5,000 more subscribers. We just passed 25,000 subscribers.
I just feel like I don't want you to get ahead of us because I am very, very cognizant of the fact that at any moment, Big Brother could just say, nah, and just shut us down completely. So that's why I don't want to. Part of me likes that we're a little bit more off the radar to some extent because I'm just the fact that we could still be monetized and that we are, you know what I mean? I almost don't want to tempt fate.
Well, Jen is convinced that we are going to get, the knees cut off at some point, and perhaps they will. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're going to continue to ascend in the direction that we're going to ascend in, and that there won't be additional bumps in the road. There always are.
I don't care if it's things for me personally, like that I'm prepared for. I just really don't want it to be like a channel thing, which is why I think we need to be considering other things. Like I was looking at that Means TV. I mean, we need to figure something out so that we're safe from Big Brother, if and when that happens. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not sure what that looks like. But if you're new here, welcome. Please hit the like button and subscribe because it's free.
That would be great.
And welcome. I am looking forward to speaking with Kayse. What's funny is that I sort of just inadvertently found her. Like, I don't even know how her YouTube popped up. I don't know what it was, but and I'm not sure what brought me in. I must have been something about Christian Zionists because I think that's what would have probably been the relevant connection.
Well,
but,
I think the conversation is
really
also
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this conversation is very important because most people just talk about Jewish Zionism. They don't talk about the fact, and it's not even so much that it's Christian Zionism, it's evangelical Christian Zionism. Like that is a huge component to this. And it really does not get enough attention. And rightfully so, the attention is primarily placed on the Zionist Jews as they should be. However, let's not pretend like there isn't a significant portion of Christian Zionism that plays a role economically, politically, culturally. It's a huge thing.
And it is exceptionally anti-Semitic. You know what? Again, I need to stop using that phrase. It is exceptionally anti-Jewish.
Sure.
The evangelical Christian Zios are extremely anti-Jew. What they need is for all of us to go there so that we could all die and go burn in hell, and they could have, and the rapture happens. So, but they don't like us. So, that's the thing. So it's interesting. And that's why it makes perfect sense that they get along so well with the Jewish Zios, because the Jewish Zios are anti-Jewish too. They're anti-Judaism. So it makes sense that they get along and cross-pollinate so well.
Well, somebody was inquiring the other day, or made a comment earlier. And it's obviously great to see for you guys who are supporting our channel. Obviously, our numbers have been doing very well. Our clip that we put out earlier today about our friend Zaina Day, who is going to be co-hosting with me on Monday, June the 12th, while Jen is far, far away. She talked with Abby Martin, and we clipped that and put it up along with a clip of Mehdi Hassan with Piers Morgan. And Piers Morgan, who, as we've said, is the ultimate corporate media fence sitter in YouTube land, I guess you would say. And for him to emphatically say that I'm in support of the Palestinian cause, Israel has gone too far, that's when you know the tide is turning. That's when you know the tide is turning, when somebody like Bono finally makes his public statement decrying what has been happening. And
just
but Jen, you should be happy in that that when the water's safe for those types of people to start saying the right thing, then you know that the tide has clearly turned. Now we just have to make sure that we stay relentless in that effect and make sure that we get to the point where the Zionist movement and the Israel lobby's control over our country ceases to exist. I know that's wishful thinking right now. It's going to be a long, arduous fight going forward. But with you guys here, it really does make a difference. And we've seen the difference in the numbers. Our clip, that particular clip, if you haven't checked out, is over 33,000 views now in just over 24 hours. So
can I say something briefly about Bono before you go forward? Because I feel like you're jumping to something else, and I have to say something about
that. He's a piece of crap.
No, why it bothers me more than Bruce. Why Bono's quietness is
because he's
so
Irish.
Well, yes, that, but no, because of how he has set himself up, his narrative historically, and who he has put himself out there to be, is a complete fraud. A complete fraud. And yeah, the fact that he's Irish, that should be a little bit embarrassing for the Irish people, quite honestly, especially the Irish people that have been so vehemently pro-Palestine, and have been really working that in their country and everywhere else. But yeah, if I were Irish, that would really piss me off. About him. It's not okay. So yeah, he disgusts me. And I want to answer someone here saying they don't care about the old boomer celebrities. I don't care either. What you just have to know for people, and by the way, he's not really a boomer celebrity, he's a Gen X celebrity. But anyhow, the thing is that these are people that he was such an activist and an outspoken person, or so I really thought, for aid to Africa and for AIDS and people that need, he seemed like such one of the good guys for so long throughout like my formative years. So yeah, not boomers, Gen X. Anyway.
Yeah, he definitely is somebody who has upset me. U2 is certainly one of my favorite bands, and not just because they're Irish. I genuinely like their music. Especially from music of yesteryear. I thought it was good. But they haven't been relevant musically in like 25 years in the sense of like creating new stuff and, it really being enjoyable.
I agree completely, Matt. Thank you. That's exactly my point. We've said it many times on this show. Like, it's never too late to get yourself on the right side of history. That's between you and whatever you think happens, to your spirit.
The connection's really bad, Jen. Don't know what's going on there.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Looks fine to me. Like, I'm not even getting the thing. Maybe it's you.
No, Colin, who is it?
No, it doesn't matter, but you distract me.
She looks fine to me.
Thank you.
Uh,
Anywho, see how now I'm all off track. Now I am completely distracted and I don't even remember what I was saying. But it was probably important and now people are going to miss it.
Well, I think that the important thing is
yeah, they all heard me.
Look who's here. Ozma's here. I think, probably as much as anything,
it's disappointing. That's all. The Bono thing is disgusting. But I do agree. Oh, this is what we're saying. For me personally, the grace period really was only a few weeks after October 7th. For me, most of the people that are left in my life, for the most part, are people that are exactly where I am on this. Everyone else is sort of, I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how to deal with people in the world that are just going about their lives like this is okay. And I don't know how to have any sort of connection with people that haven't not just decided it's not okay, but haven't spoken out publicly and said it's not okay. I don't want that level of cowardice in my vicinity. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, yes, it's always good for people to get on the right side of history as to between them and them. That's your business. But as far as people that are allowed within my orbit, yeah, I gave a few week grace period after October 7th, and that's about all I can tolerate personally in my space.
Well, as we mentioned at the top, and our wonderful guest is here, I think it's very important that people understand, because a lot of I would say the dominating narrative that has existed over the last 18 months has been a primary focus on Jewish Zionism. I don't think there's been enough attention given to Christian Zionism. And of course, as Jen has pointed out time and again, there are more Christian Zionists in the United States than there are Jews in the entire world. So I would say that those types of numbers is reflected.
And they don't like the Jews particularly. So from a Jewish person's perspective growing up, those are not people, it's not like they like the Jews so much and care about our well-being. And it isn't like that. If it were like that, it would almost be like, well, oh, isn't that sweet? But
Yeah.
no, that's not the case. So,
well, if you are not familiar with Kayse Melone, we are going to play you a quick intro clip so that you have an idea of where she is coming from.
Again, like, this is not a reflection how I think that everyday Christians are somehow more responsible for the occupying apartheid state of the state of Israel in relation to the ethnic cleansing that is being attempted regarding the Palestinians. I think everyone in the United States is complicit in a lot of different ways. But the institution and the ideology of Christianity is being used to justify, I think, in a lot of ways, the expenditure of tax dollars to support the statehood of Israel at all costs, and particularly encouraging the evangelical voting bloc to vote for leaders who support the statehood of Israel at all costs, even genocidal costs. Because at its core, Christian Zionism is, just for like a brief summary, it's the biblical prophecy that Christians have, and how they have a religious obligation to support the Israeli government unconditionally in order to fulfill that prophecy, in order to bring about the end times. I talk about this a lot on my channel as well, about how when I was raised in the evangelical Christian church, the end times were talked about a lot. I got a lot of sermons, a lot of lectures in Bible class about Armageddon and the book of Revelation. And without fail, that always does bring up the question of the statehood of Israel, okay? Because I think it is the most violent and immoral manifestation of the dominant cultural ideology of Christianity. We can talk about, again, the ways that individuals hold themselves back, and like women subjugate themselves for the sake of men, and how you're believing in a fairy tale, all of these really important conversations. But at the end of the day, the most drastic and the most horrific result of all of those beliefs is Christian Zionism, is the genocidal justification of the statehood of Israel.
Jen, would you like to
So, yeah. So, guys, I came across Kayse's video again. You guys know I never remember where I find things. I don't know where it pops up what. I can't even keep track of it. And anything where it's an atheist will always get my attention because we need to sort of get. And the fact that somebody had to deconstruct that and get to that is I deconstructed Zionism, and then it all just seemed like, I don't know. I feel like she and I were meant to meet. So, guys, Kayse Melone is a cultural commentator, and you can find her YouTube channel at Kayse Melone. We will put all of the links in our description. So welcome, Kayse. It is nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Great. Yeah.
So,
go
where
ahead.
did you come from? Because you definitely hit something on the algorithm recently that now and I even saw you did a video about where did all these new people come from? And so something must have happened. Something must have happened. Where are you? Like, who are you? Where did you come from? You know, like that. And I am someone who, just so you know, I'm going to say very briefly, born and raised in a very Jewish insulated community, raised very Zionist, and it's taken me 20 years to deconstruct. Now, I was always an atheist. That I never had to deconstruct. So I really just had to deconstruct my love for the state of Israel and go through that process. So yeah, so tell me where you came from and how come I'm all of a sudden seeing you on YouTube.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I was really grateful when you guys reached out because I saw that we were having very similar conversations. I do commend you for both kinds of deconstruction that you just kind of touched on there. It's something that I kind of talk about a lot on my platform, which is that I wasn't just growing up indoctrinated in evangelical Christianity. I grew up indoctrinated in conservative Christianity, and there was a political nature to that quote unquote faith-based community. And so I kind of come at it from both angles whenever I can, because I think they are intertwined conversations and they are really important. As far as where I came from, I grew up here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, so you're in Tulsa. Okay.
Yeah, one of the multiple. I mean, our population is only what, 400,000 people the last time I looked, and we have multiple evangelical mega churches. Okay, so it is a stronghold here. We are in the Bible Belt, and I grew up going to the Bible-based fundamentalist private high school affiliated with one of those mega churches. So I was in deep. I mean, you want to talk about all of the stereotypes of white evangelical Christianity. I hit them. I checked those boxes. And I stopped calling myself a Christian around 21 years old. And over the last, I'm 33 now, so 12.
What was it? What was it? Like, so you grew up and you like when you were in, Christian high school and all that, did you believe? Like, okay, so you believed it wasn't just you were forced to go to that. Okay. So you didn't just all of a sudden wake up at 21 and be like, yeah, I'm not with that anymore. Something happens, right?
Yeah. And one thing I like to talk about, I mean, my channel is very much, a lot of the conversation is about deconstruction. So one thing I always like to say is it really looks different for everyone. For me, I was a very studious academic mind, and I very much, the logic of the infallibility of the Bible just broke down one day. I have like a capital M moment when I was walking at my college campus, and I realized that I wasn't a Christian anymore. And there are a lot of factors that I think go into that. One of them being, I went out of state to a public university. And I think that separation from all of my, closest friends who I spent every day with, reading the same books, consuming the same materials, really allowed me to start to question reality. And it was very intense of a transition away. And I think what's interesting now is that I spent 10 years kind of from the theological or the philosophical questions of deconstructing from the religious aspect. And then in the past couple of years, and particularly this past year, started looking at the political side of how I was raised, right? Not that I mean, I've been, going to protests and calling myself a feminist all of this last decade, but really taking a look on what the actual processes of propaganda-based indoctrination looks like and studying the rise of Christian nationalism, etc. And so what's interesting now is I get a lot of feedback from my comment on my platform about people who are questioning their faith-based upbringing from originally the political perspective, because they don't like how the evangelical church that they grew up in is encouraging them to sway along a lot of these political conversations. And so they're kind of coming at it from the opposite end of the conversation, which I think is really interesting. One thing I do always try to make the caveat of, which I'll just do for your audience as well, is that I do very much recognize that there is a multiplicity of the human experience. I recognize that there are progressive Christians doing wonderful, amazing work in support of, the material conditions for all to be improved. And it is, unfortunately, the dominant mainstream Christian narrative aligns more with white evangelicalism. So once Trump got elected again and then sworn in, I mean, I was essentially radical or mobilized in the sense of, okay, well, now I have to talk about this because 80% of white evangelical Christians voted for Trump. And I'm floored. I'm just done.
You see the hypocrisy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You see the hypocrisy in that.
The hypocrisy. And I guess to answer your original question about how I kind of maybe came, to 15,000 subscribers or whatever overnight, is I think the conversations I'm having just really resonate with people, and a lot of people are coming to the awareness of these issues. And how one thing I always try to talk about is there is the personal liberation aspect of walking away from high demand religions, but it really, the most harmful manifestations, as I kind of said in that clip that you showed, the most harmful manifestations of this kind of indoctrination end up harming others and promoting hate or division at the very least. And then on the other side of the world, we end up seeing it actually play out on a geopolitical scale.
Yeah, I just think like you had to deconstruct Christian, and then you also or you're now an atheist.
Yeah,
that's big. Like, there's a lot of people that realize I'm not with a religion,
right?
But it is not often. That's why I think I was also so interested in you. It is not often that I come across people that deconstruct God, right? Like that's usually beyond. Like most people, and I never believed, so I've never had that it's never been a thought for me. So I'm just very interested, and I didn't realize that there were as many latecomers, I guess, to that party.
Yeah, no, it's everyone's on a different part of that journey, and which is another reason I try not to be specifically exclusionary when I talk about being an atheist or being non-religious, because there are a lot of people on different parts of their deconstruction. Maybe they still want to hold on to the identity of the Christian label, but they don't adhere to all of it. It's I think there are a lot of issues in like the atheist content creation sphere that I'm new to the game, but I'm kind of trying to track and understand. But yeah, what's interesting is the most recent religious landscape study done by the Pew Research Center showed that 51% of evangelical Christians live in the South, and so does the largest number of atheists, which I think is very indicative of how polarizing and unhealthy evangelical Christianity is, to the point where it gets people to be like, I want nothing to do with this. Like, I want to be
atheist in the South
by like 1%, but it's still yeah. Yeah. So that was interesting.
Well, listen, I appreciate your opinion. It's not a good one, but I appreciate it. Anytime a blonde comes on the show, you got to be nice. But the evangelicals, they love me. They know I'm a great person. And you're probably a terrible person, but I'll have to listen more to what you have to say. Could you talk about what it was like growing up amongst the church? I think one of the things that people forget is that when you're from the heart, and you're not from the South, you're from the heartland. You're from you're from like a place where the church is the central focus of the community, whether it's Tulsa, whether it's Oklahoma City, whether it's Manhattan, Kansas, it doesn't matter. They're all very similar elements. The only real, what you would call major city, if you want to call it that, within earshot of where you are, is Kansas City. Other than that, it's a very it's farm country, it's Wizard of Oz country and all that, but I don't think people truly understand how much control and how much power the evangelical church truly has in places like the Heartland. And if you could elaborate on that, on what that experience was like. Well, obviously, I think a lot of people would love to hear about that.
First of all, great impression of our dear leader. Second of all, I think you touched on something that, yeah, basically brought me online. And to be clear, I've been very vocal and outspoken about deconstruction for a long time, but it wasn't until we voted Trump back into office that I realized I needed to be more formal about what these conversations were going to look like. And the more I dig, what's really interesting is that I have intuitively known for a long time a lot of the things that the more I research and dig is being proven by the hard facts of how much money has been poured into the religious right in order to, exactly like you said, manipulate the narratives around these communities who aren't as connected to the rest of the world. We don't have as much of a diversity as the coast. We don't have as much interaction with, people from other countries as people do on the coast. It is the heartland. You're exactly right. And there's so much to learn and accept and feel super disheartened about in relation to the money. I mean, starting all the way back with Paul Weyrich and Jerry Falwell. Jerry Falwell Sr. and Jr., I maintain, have contributed to so much more harm in this world than any individual, like Republican or any president, because they mobilized their church congregations intentionally and with financial backing to get all of those presidents into power, and then worked hand in hand with them. So in that sense, the evangelical institution in this country, I think, is so much more at fault than a lot of people are willing to admit, because nobody wants to attack an individual's faith. And I never want to do that either. I never want to attack an adherent for their personal spiritual transformation, which is honestly none of my business. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at the material results, not excluding Jerry Falwell Sr., if we're going to, bring it back to Christian Zionism, getting a gift of a private jet from the government of Israel. I mean, I'm not sure how much you guys have really looked into Christian nationalism, but it is also very tied into Christian Zionism. And the targeted ads just in the last 10 years of the digitization of communication, nobody's watching local news as much anymore. We're not getting physical newspapers. We're getting our news from our technology. And when you want to talk about these people who are already isolated, my community members out here who are only getting their news from their phone, whenever churches got digitized, okay, and you could start paying your tithe and offering online, like automatic withdrawals. You could start signing up for events. You could start mapping out all of these data points. There are very tried and true, very observable platforms that are farming that data and selling it to Republican leaders. And it has been a very intentional propaganda-based effect. And it breaks my heart, okay, because my parents were 20 and 22 years old when they had me. I don't really feel like I can hold them as accountable for raising me in what they thought was the best environment. They truly did, right? I have to have a lot of grace for that. But you're absolutely right. The seclusion here and then the algorithmic digitization of information has been absolutely exploited. There's so much I can get into on that, but yeah, that's a great point, Peter.
Yeah, it's all it's hard to deconstruct how you're raised. Like, regardless of what that indoctrination is. Fortunately for me, like I said, I only had the one level to address. And I there is somebody in there hating on the atheists. I've gotten that my whole life. Like, it's been more acceptable to be any religion than to be atheist most of my life. Like, there weren't any openly atheist. There were openly gay Congress people before there were openly atheist Congress people. I believe it. And not that there shouldn't be, but I'm just saying, like, it actually was that. And that there were atheists. Statistically speaking, that they're there. So in other words, they all list whatever religion because they're scared to say that they're atheists. That's messed up. And so it's very recent. And so I was very pleased to see you. Also, I see you collect floral ephemera, which I am very, very supportive. I also have a huge ephemera collection for scrapbooking and such. But yeah, I appreciate that. So what my big question for you is, especially knowing now that you're in Oklahoma, one of the things that I do notice is there is this Black contingency of Christian Zionists that I don't necessarily think of as evangelical. So I was going to say, like, do you notice that, because where you are is probably pretty white. I mean, you probably have indigenous people, but like pretty white. Do you see any crossover between the Black church in some way? And are those, like, it's somewhat strange to me because I don't understand who are they? Because they're not with the evangelicals.
Mm-hmm.
The evangelicals don't care for Black people, do they?
Right. Right. Well, it's interesting you brought that up, because I would say that the white evangelical Christian church aligns with the Black evangelical Christian church when it suits them, and then drops them when it doesn't. That is something that I do try to point out pretty regularly, which is the difference, and even just the rhetoric from the pulpit amongst the Black American Christian church, which I don't have specific experience, attending. But in my research, I do see a lot more liberation focused kind of rhetoric, also a lot more involvement in actual material justice and social justice. I think the name Reverend William Barber is coming to mind as someone who identifies, I think identifies as an evangelical Christian, or some kind of Protestant Christian, but does a lot of activism, on the ground in the name of justice for all. And so there is a division there. I do think so. And white evangelicals, and there were definitely white supremacist undertones in my upbringing. It certainly couldn't be as overt as maybe they would like. Maybe they would have liked to have been. I don't know. But
yeah.
Even just the rhetoric of like certain areas of our community, deserve police violence because they don't respect authority, right? We know now what that actually speaks to, which is this racial separation, this racial supremacy. And I have seen firsthand that a predominantly white evangelical Christian church will align themselves and say, see, look, all of these Black American Christians agree with us that Jesus is the true Son of God. But then when George Floyd protests happened, they were a little bit more silent. And it just seems like a very, what can we use? What can we discard kind of thing? It's tricky for me whenever I have to remind myself to always make the caveats that I have to make, because I have a lot of trauma from my evangelical Christian upbringing, and I do critique Christianity, the mainstream narratives of Christianity as a whole, which are not the majority. The numbers show that it's not the majority of people in the United States align with the evangelical doctrine, but it is the dominant in the sense that it has the most money and power, right? So when I critique that, I try very hard to make the delineation there, in the sense that it doesn't always include the Black evangelical Christian church. It's also difficult. I do try to give voice to Black Americans who have deconstructed from evangelical Christianity, because they tend to recognize, this is the religion of their oppressors, of those who colonized them, and Christian missionary work is an arm of imperialism, like throughout the world, still to this day. It's softer, it's more subtle, but it still exists. And it's all intertwined in all of these hierarchies that we just really don't have room for anymore, and yet they persist.
I think it's also a healthy dose of Munchausen in a lot of ways. I think people know that they've been indoctrinated. I think, there's, I'm forgetting like the proper term, but it's like finding comfort in your slave master.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something to be said for the people who were treated this way. And I can say from my own personal experience, I'm just very thankful that my father, who found his, let's just say his Irish Catholicism much later in life. But he was always very open-minded with me. And he knew, unlike my mother, that I really didn't want any part of, in religious indoctrination. I didn't want to go to the synagogue or the church. I come from a mixed family. And for me, I always had that. But the moment I knew that all of it was bullshit was when George W. Bush came around. Yeah, I talked to God in the morning, and he tells me I got to go out and bomb Iraq. And it's like, if people couldn't see through that, like I truly sympathize with people that are so brainwashed that they really think that this shit kicker from Texas, who just happened to be born into the right family, talks to God every day, and he's telling him that he should go commit genocide on the Iraqi people. Okay. So now you understand why, when genocide is being committed on the Palestinian people, how there are still these demented idiots who actually fall in line with it, even though I think deep down they know it's wrong. They want to say something, but there's something to be said for, yeah, but how are the other members of the church going to react if I speak out against this? Won't they not like me anymore? Blasphemy, they will say. And that's why they stay silent. At least that's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I need to address Jesus is God. And I don't care that you're a member. I really don't care that you're a member. Enough. I've been an atheist my whole life. I assure you, atheists are the most moral people. They don't need their religion to be moral. I reject that entirely. What you're saying, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You really should not be really.
Now, I think as much as we criticize all of the problems that we see, and it's easy to point the finger at we'll just say the more simple-minded individuals. That's why I have much more criticism for Jewish Zionism than Christian Zionism, because so many of the Christian Zionists they're brought up in communities where formal education is not emphasized. They are not told that you need to go out and learn this trade and become self-sufficient in a way that Jewish Zionists, who typically come from the more affluent cities of the country, New York, Miami, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco in particular, they're all told to be highly educated. And I think they have more of those intellectual tools in the toolbox that they should know better. But again, that's where religious, ethnic, and cultural supremacy comes into play. And that's where I think Zionism has taken a substantial hold over our culture. Now, I do think that there are cracks in the armor. I do. I don't think that this is something that is going to last. And we're going to cover some topics now that I think is going to show that. One in particular that Jen and I remember very well, because if you've looked into Jen's work, she's run for Congress a couple of times. And one of the people who was in Congress for a time, Andy Levin, who I would never consider to be, like a real populist left progressive type person. He was moderately left for sure, to be fair.
He was a liberal Zio. He was what we would call, he's self-proclaimed liberal Zionist.
But this is a guy who thought that what was happening to the Palestinians was wrong. And so the Israel lobby, on behalf of AIPAC, made a point to put in this total flake of a politician, Haley Stevens, into Congress. And by doing so, they spent millions of dollars doing that deed. And it's not the only one that they've done it with, but this is a clip that I think is going to crystallize for many people just how much of a systemic problem the Israel lobby is in this country, no matter where you are. And this happens to be Michigan.
You know why America's cooked? It's not China. It's not Russia. It's this.
It's your first Ford. Yeah. And you're walking with a congresswoman. Yes. Oh my gosh, please.
Well, thank you so much for your community service.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I was wondering, with all the support of Republicans and people who are anti-choice and people who are working to disrupt our election systems that AIPAC is doing right now, I'm wondering why you're accepting their support. I'm a Jew and my family lives here in this community.
Yeah.
And I really think that those kinds of candidates are making the Jewish people less safe. I'm wondering why you're accepting their
Well, thank you so much for coming and bringing.
Help! 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 That's what she wants to say.
Your kiddo. It's so nice to meet with you.
I'm just wondering, I want to make life and this country safe place for him to grow up in. I'm wondering why you would want to accept their endorsement and $800,000 in ads this year.
Yeah.
I guys, I have received. How many endorsements have I received? this election?
A lot.
I think I've got a lot
A
of
lot.
local labor. And
A lot of
yeah.
local labor, yeah.
You are a great representative, and we really appreciate your support. I'm just hoping you can use you guys. Oh my God, yeah.
She's a bitch to begin with. I know this on good authority. So I'm not really surprised that she would do that. But for her to turn her back to a woman and her child, let me assure you that somebody's going to use this against her politically. And they should, because Haley Stevens is a very opportunistic Democrat, like many. But this is a person who definitely plans to ascend the ladder. And I really think that the Israel lobby is going to be the death of the duopoly politics in this country, because it's showing just how corrupt and bought off these representatives really are. She couldn't even take a slight amount of criticism. And this is coming from somebody who supports her, wasn't trying to be confrontational, was just asking, do you have to take the Israel lobby money? The answer that she doesn't want to say, which of course is what she is supposed to say, is, yeah, I kind of do, because that's just the way things are. That's what she'd like to say if there were no consequences. But she also knows that by even responding to this, it could be used against her, as it should be.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen this. I mean, have you seen this before, like this clip?
No. I'm interested, and I definitely want to dive in and learn a little bit more about like the connection and also the differences between Jewish Zionism and Christian Zionism, because they're just such interesting angles. And, that's kind of what I've been trying to look into, is the money specifically from the Israel lobby, specifically targeting Christian congregations, because the theology behind Christian Zionism has been around for like over a millennia at this point. And I think originally, I mean, I try to talk about this too. I mean, it's anti-Jewish people, anti-Semitic. I know, Jen, you were talking about earlier, you don't always prefer using anti-Semitic when we're talking about... Because the
people, they're not Semites, you know that.
Right, exactly. So, but for lack of better words, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, the concept of Christian Zionism, even on its theological stance, is in fact anti-Jewish, right? Because it's using the Jewish people as a pawn. I was also taught that if people who practice Judaism don't convert to Christianity, they will spend an eternity in hell, because there's not enough suffering on the actual world. We gotta invent a worse one. And the reality is, like, it's been it's just been so much to unpack. But the theological stance behind Christian Zionism, I think, had its own separateness away from the money behind it and the policy behind it that has been shaped. And I think it was around like the 70s when money was actually pumped into promoting this as something for evangelical Christians to vote about, to mobilize about. And that's kind of like the line where I want to find, like, when did this, not that it was ever, a super moral theological stance in the first place, but just where did that start? Like, why were they mobilized? When were they mobilized, kind of thing? So that's just what it brings to mind. Is I still have so much more to dig into, honestly.
I might be able to share some insight on you when I have some ideas as to, well, we can finish this out, but some ideas as to like the Jewish Zionism versus Christian Zionism. Like, I have some thoughts on that, but
I'm sure.
This is not, look at a boat. Let's ride the boat.
Oh, I have so many endorsements everywhere. Bye. Yeah, a congresswoman who purports to care about Jewish safety, but won't answer any questions from her own constituents voicing concerns about their safety. That was Representative Haley Stevens, Democrat from Michigan's 11th District. And this may sound like a crazy conspiracy theory, but she was placed in that seat specifically to represent Israel. That's right. Back in 2022, the pro-Israel lobby donated $3 million to her campaign in a safe Democrat district because they wanted to oust the incumbent, Andy Levin, an actual Jewish representative, because they deemed him not pro-Israel enough. Quote, AIPAC has targeted Levin for defeat because while he comes from a well-known Jewish political family and has voiced support for Israel's existence, he has also been sharply critical of that nation's policy towards Palestinians living in Israeli-controlled territories.
I'm really Jewish, but AIPAC can't stand the idea that I am the clearest, strongest Jewish voice in Congress, standing for a simple proposition that there's no way to have a secure democratic homeland for the Jewish people unless we achieve the political and human rights of the Palestinian people.
That is all it takes, folks. The mildest form of criticism, and you're out. To serve in the United States Congress, you must pledge 100% allegiance to Israel. Hence why Haley Stevens, who supposedly cares a lot about Jewish lives, can act with such disdain towards her own Jewish constituents. Once again, to put it bluntly, she is not there to serve the people of Michigan. She is there to serve Israel.
Yeah.
That's shout out to our friend James Lee, who does amazing work. He's been part of Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar. He also has his own channel, 5149, I think is the name of the channel.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've learned in this whole experience, Kayse, is we should always give credit where credit is due as often as we can to real journalists, because there's not a lot of them out there. And James happens to be one of them. But this goes to show everybody that there is no amount of money that the Israel lobby will not spend to get what they want. And as much as the Democrats have tried to paint this picture that this is a Republican problem, no, this is a United States of America problem. The Republican Party controls Oklahoma. Hence, the Israel lobby is going to buy off all of the Republicans in Oklahoma to do as they say. In a swing state like Michigan, they'll buy off all the Democrats and Republicans that they need to in order to achieve their goals. That's why this system is broken beyond repair. You can't run to one party or the other and think that that's going to save you. It's not. This couldn't be more clear.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to finish? Do you want to finish this?
Yeah. Let's see. We'll finish.
And if AIPAC and the rest of the pro-Israel lobbying apparatus...
And just so you guys know, before we continue, these are all of the pro-Israel nonprofits that exist that have real power here in this country. You know, most of these organizations typically get one or two if they're lucky. This is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 40, 50. 50 major organizations. Of course, the ADL, GINSA, AIPAC. We know who the worst ones are, but there are so many of these organizations that are out there that have such insane infrastructural, economic, cultural, and political control over all of our politics. And this is something that people should be very aware of, if they're not already.
Apparatus even catches wind of a slight waver in your support of Israel, you better watch out.
Here are the top 20 recipients in Congress, the House and the Senate, of AIPAC money in the 2022 midterm cycle, according to Open Secrets. They're members of both parties. They come from every corner of the country with varying levels of experience in Congress. The Democrat Glenn Ivey of Maryland tops the list. He beat out fellow Democrat Donna Edwards in Maryland's House primary after AIPAC poured millions into pro-Ivey advertisements and mailers. Edwards was running for a second stint in Congress after serving during the Obama administration, where she voted present, not even a no, on a number of pro-Israel resolutions. So the money poured in against her.
And next on the list is Thomas Massie of Kentucky, to punish him for exposing that every Republican member of Congress has a, quote, AIPAC handler. The last thing I'll say, because I want to leave it on a positive note, a note of action, is to say that for people who maybe don't care to pay attention to politics because it's so depressing, it's a cesspool, I have a tip, a heuristic, and that is the easiest way to decide who to vote for is whichever candidate has raised the least amount of money, because that means they are more beholden to the people who vote for them and not for the people who fund them. My name is James Lee. This is the 5149 Show. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more.
Yeah.
A shout out to our guy.
Yeah, that was great.
So, I had this thought when you were talking before about the difference between Christian Zionism and Jewish Zionism. So, and there's a lot of confusion in the chat, I think, about where Zionism comes from. So I can sort of do please don't distract me. I could sort of do like a quick primer on where that is. But the basis of Zionism is secular. The basis of Zionism is not Jewish. Yes, Judaism was used And it was based in what was actual anti-Semitism going on in Europe at that time, where Jews felt lesser than and felt that because other Europeans didn't consider Jews white. That's where that comes from. So that's why they were considered Semitic, even though they're not Semitic. So this is where that came from. And then the Jews, a lot of the people that were Jewish but secular thought, well, yeah, maybe we'll get respect if we have our own place and our own country and our own language. And so this started this idea of Jewish nationalism, but it was never based on Judaism. Okay. And that's something that is very important for people to understand. There is absolutely nothing in Judaism that supports the concept of a geopolitical Zionist entity. Nothing. In fact, it's the antithesis of Judaism. And I've said that many times on this channel. But where I think the big difference comes from regarding Christian Zionists and Jewish Zionists now is that Christian Zionists, it's religious based. Jewish Zionists, for the majority of Jews that are Zionists, it's not religion based, it's fear based. And it's fear based brainwashing that we have been undergoing from post-Holocaust trauma and 3 generations back. And this is what has happened. So it isn't based on our religion. The very religious Jews, I'm sure you've seen, are not Zionists. The very religious Jews, even the religious Jews in Jerusalem, in Mea Shearim, which is the largest, very Orthodox Jewish neighborhood in Jerusalem, they're not in support of the Zionist state. And most of them have lived there since before the Zionist state. They were just Jewish settlers that wanted to be in the Holy Land. They didn't want to own it and they didn't want it to be a geopolitical thing, right? So that's where people have to distinguish. And the Jews that are now with it, the secular Jews, your Reform Jews, even your conservative Jews in this country, it's all based on generational trauma and fear-based mindset. So I was raised to believe that if there's no Israel, Jews are not safe. We were very much raised with the idea that if you don't like Israel, you're anti-Semitic. And we were also very much with this very white supremacist concept of that there is no Palestinians, they're just Arabs. And also because that's what the early Zionists needed to do in order to get everybody on board, because that was never true. So that was just one of many lies we were told. So I think the Christian Zios, it's religion-based, and the Jewish Zios, it's fear-based. And that's just, my sort of perception of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting breakdown. Thank you for kind of giving that insight. It really does speak to why I feel like all of my approaches to the conversation come from the theological, religious background. And now I have to catch up with all of the actual material political manifestations of this, right? So I recently got the 100 Years of War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi, right? And I know it's on me to actually understand this is one of the most frustrating things about being raised in the environment I was raised in, is now as an adult, I have to teach myself science and history because I was not taught those things. But I know a lot of us kind of relate to that just because history is propagandized in so many different ways. So thank you for the insight. That's an important note, I think, moving forward, we can kind of approach it from.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, and I don't want to ever assume that you don't know a lot of Jewish people or that you didn't grow up around Jewish people or, whatever. But I honestly didn't realize there were Christian Zionists until I was an adult.
Interesting.
That never,
How
never
siloed we were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood. Where I grew up, I would say it was about 90 something % Jewish. There was 1 or 2 houses that had Christmas decorations.
Oh, interesting. Gosh, yeah, that's a whole nother world to me.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It would be a good story for us to have switched existence.
Yeah. A Freaky Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just real. And you're still, and it's funny, and I'm back living in the area where I did grow up, although I'm planning to get out of here as soon as possible.
Same. I can't help it. But I'm always torn on that. It's can I do the most good by staying here and doing some mind shifting here? I don't know.
You probably can. I live amongst a massive amount of wealthy Israelis that come and infest South Florida. And it's just, I can't. I
Much as
can't.
it pains me to say this, because I do think a lot of people see through the likes of, obviously Debbie Wasserman Schultz being one of the truly worst federal representatives that we have. But for a decent chunk of the congressional district that she represents, she is them. Like, she is those people. Those people think like she does. So she's not like a representative who's a fish out of water type situation. The affluent Jews that live in this congressional district have very similar thoughts. You are needed to, you're not allowed to leave South Florida, Jen.
No, they're not talking to me.
They're talking to the Oklahoma gal.
Yes, they don't want you to leave. Where would you go? Like, where are you planning on escaping?
I mean, the coast call my name. I've been here for so long. That's why I say I go back and forth. Like, I have roots here. Maybe I can do good here, but in this current administration, there's also a level of safety. I sometimes feel like, I'm a woman. There are decisions that are kind of have nothing to do with what I want to do. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, you are very landlocked. It's funny. Like, I've always been a mountain girl stuck in a beach town like my whole life kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been landlocked like that.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
I've got mega churches.
That's true. One of the things that I think is very important to talk about is as dark and as bleak as things are right now, I do believe that the tide is turning. I don't know if you get that sense in the heartland, but just from what I personally observe, and as we pointed out, especially in the last show that we did, about how even somebody like Bono and somebody like Piers Morgan are saying that Israel has gone too far. Those are total fence sitters. They don't take any stand on anything that it could in any way, damage their reputation amongst the elites. So if they're coming around, I think that that's a sign that things are moving in a direction that is more positive. However, one of the downsides, the true downsides to the collapse of the Zionist state, the Zionist control, is when you have a leader like Netanyahu, who is very reflective of the Likud and a substantial portion of the Israeli population that lives there today. What you will see is this incessant amount of bombings, overkills, if you will. And this particular story about a doctor who had 9 of her 10 children killed in a bombing the other day, leave it to somebody that we consider a good friend and one of the true, maybe the best activist in all of politics, and that's Medea Benjamin of CodePink. She does a very heartbreaking but effective message regarding what happened here.
2 days now, and I can't stop thinking about Dr. Ala al-Najjar, a pediatrician, a healer, a mother. The military in Israel bombed her home in Gaza. They targeted her home. When she came back from the hospital, she found 7 of her children's bodies charred beyond recognition, buried in the rubble. 2 of them still missing. 9 of her 10 children gone in an instant. The youngest was only 7 months old. The eldest was only 12. Her husband and surviving child are in critical condition. The names of her children deserve to be spoken. Please excuse my pronunciation. Yahia, Rakan, Lukman, Razlan, Jubran, Ev, Rivan, Sidra, and Sidin. May their memories be a blessing. Can you imagine going to work to save other people's children, only to return and find your own buried alive? Can you imagine the weight of that grief? I can't. This is one of the most horrifying stories I've ever heard. Yet you barely hear it mentioned in U.S. news, and certainly you never hear the names of her children uttered.
We're too busy talking about 2 white people that were killed outside of the Israeli or wherever that was. I'm like livid. I'm so glad. I'm like beyond.
No, well said. Yeah.
And as I'd say to Jen, and as I would say to you, as I'd say to everybody, the best thing that happened with the two people that got shot in DC, it further proved just how evil and vile the Zionist movement truly is. This is just about a bombing of 9 children being killed. You just had 14,000 children that were starved to death. Notice how fast that story disappeared because they don't want to address that one.
Well, I actually think that's why the other story appeared. So we have our theories, but I think
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I do think that this is an example of how hypocritical, and I guess the right word is, I don't know what the right word is. Honestly, I try to choose my words carefully. I try to be as politically correct as I can without completely allowing my Irish rage to get the best of me, because it easily can. But it is shameful beyond words, but it's also a reflection of their ideology, in my opinion, is doomed. It's going to fall. And it is on us to use our platforms to speak truth to power about how evil and vile they truly are. And credit to Medea, who is also Jewish, who has made it her mission in life to never let any of these psychopaths on Capitol Hill have a moment's peace. Now, some of them do it. They're all guilty. Some of them do it as a means to an end for their political careers. But a lot of them truly are bloodthirsty psychopaths like Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Brian Mast. I mean, Brian Mast shows up on the congressional floor with the IDF uniform on. As far as I'm concerned, that should have been grounds for removal from office altogether. That's insanity. But when the Israel lobby controls the amount of political, cultural, and economic share of our system, it's not surprising that they're doing that. But I do think that their hubris is getting the best of them now. So we'll finish this out.
This is not a war on Hamas. This is the systematic destruction of Palestinian life. And Israel's depravity keeps reaching new depths. We must not look away. We must continue to demand accountability. And we must continue to support the people in Gaza and say, free Palestine.
I want to play one other clip that just happened. This is from, I believe, the opposition party in Jerusalem. And this just happened, I believe, earlier today.
שאתם לא יודעים כמה אני רואה אתכם חלשים. אתם אנשים חלשים. חלשים מאוד מאוד מאוד. אחרי שנה וחצי על מלחמה שהרגתם בה 19,000 ילדים, 53,000 תושבים.
Notice how psychopathic the women get.
They're unredeemable. It's unfortunate. They're unredeemable.
What makes it even worse is that I appreciate what the guy is saying, but Jen, how far off on the numbers is this guy?
Yeah, no, well, that's always the case. We're all off on the numbers. His just reporting the numbers, we're all told. I think it's 500,000 people. But anyway, continue.
That looked like a Heil Hitler to me, Jen.
I don't even know what, but see, the problem is even within the Knesset, within their group, there's no people that are on what would be our team. Nobody. There's just varying degrees of their team. So I'm not exactly sure who this guy is and why he's arguing, but it's interesting because they're most liberal, progressive people, other than the few Palestinians that just sit there for tokenism. None of them actually believe that Palestine should have self-determination, right? Like they just generally don't agree with that principle. So this guy, as liberal as he might be, he's still with them. That's what we always have to keep in mind. They are not redeemable. You want to just let this keep playing, this because it's hard to even know who's fighting who in these. It's like psychopaths fighting psychopaths.
רק מלחמה נגד להוריד את חבר הכנסת עודה מהדוכן. רק מלחמה נגד חפים מפשע. להוריד אותו מהדוכן. זה מה שאתם עושים. להוריד את חבר הכנסת עודה מהדוכן.
Yeah. That's about the amount of dissent. But that's to be expected again. And this is someone who, and I don't know who that is, but he's only saying this now, and we have no idea why. It could be that who knows why, but he was probably fine with it when this all started. None of these people care about Palestinians having a state. None of them care about them as people. None of them. So they all have different reasons for opposing what they're doing, all political, not moral. That does not exist. There is maybe 1% of the population in Israel at this point that is actually fighting against the genocide. And those people are equally disgusted by their own country. So, but other than that very small group, they're too far gone. Israel, they've been through, 3-4 generations of propaganda brainwashing of superiority and supremacy and complete impunity. And that's too ingrained. They're too far gone. I've said it before. They are not capable with coexisting on this planet with the rest of us. They're just not.
Well, you're not going to see it today, Kayse, but if you check out our show on Thursday, this is the last show that Jen is going to be a part of before she is off to Ireland for a little while.
I saw that.
Well, I'm going to London and Scotland first with my boys, and then I'll be in Ireland. But yeah, I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. It's very exciting.
Wow. Have you been to Ireland before?
No.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
I went over a New Year's Eve trip when I was 23 years old by myself with a backpack.
Was it awesome?
It was amazing. I wish you all the best.
All right. Well, I am not 23, but I'm going by myself with a backpack.
I love it. I love it.
Well, you'll get, like I said, you'll get there before I do, but someday, yeah, I'll be there. What I did want to say is that because of all the things that we're discovering, and we're not going to be showing it tonight because I didn't want to just throw it out there. It's a very, very long video, but there is this guy, Hamza Jada, I think is how you say his name. He's pretty popular on TikTok. He's Palestinian, and he basically live TikTok interviewed a bunch of Israeli kids. If the stories scare you, wait till you see how they really talk. They're insane. They're literally mentally insane. Now, of course, I blame, as much as you blame the church, you blame the parents who pass it on to the kids, and the cycle repeats itself. But it is a level of psychosis that when people want to understand why a genocide is happening in real time, it's happening for 2 reasons. 1, the people are actual psychopaths. And 2, they have a financial stranglehold over our political discourse. That's it. If either one of those things were to move, for example, if the financial stranglehold that the Israel lobby has over our country were to shift in any way, the state of Israel would be finished fast. Wouldn't last very long. And they're all such unbelievable, the victimhood that they claim while they're bombing people and saying that they're going to bomb us.
All right, here explains it. Thank you, Jimmy. So his name is Ayman Odeh. He's a leading figure in the Joint List and a staunch defender of Palestinian rights. Okay, so he is one of the Arabic people there. Exactly. That's the point. There's like 2. Yeah. Like it's just in there. That's what all Zios will say. Well, we have Palestinians in the Knesset. They're allowed to vote. Yeah, the 20% that you allow to be there. But if they were to fall in love and marry somebody in the West Bank, then they'd have to live apart or they'd have to leave, right? Like, so all of that crap. But so there are a couple of people in the Knesset that are Palestinian. But you can imagine how much power they have. You saw that makes sense now, how you got carried out.
Something you said a minute ago, Peter, has stuck with me, and it's that you see a changing of the tides, and you kind of spoke to whether I have felt that or not. And I think you're right in a lot of ways. It's something that I've really been grappling with, and also something that you mentioned, Jen, as far as people who have been generations under this propaganda machine, under this indoctrination, on all of these different scales, whether or not they're redeemable, and you say no. And that's something that I've really been grappling with on a much smaller scale where I'm at, right? And not as like overtly violent, though that could be argued. And just like recognizing, where the work counts, like as far as the conversations I'm trying to have and trying to do some of the redeeming work, bringing people over to this side of awareness, so that the tide can keep, changing, as you were saying, Peter. So I don't know, those were both really interesting points that I'm still sifting through, I guess.
Well, it's a spectrum, right? Like
Right.
that's how I view it. It's a spectrum. So there are most definitely people that you can reach and that
Right.
you can, like, for lack of a better term, red pill and make them see. It's like a bell curve. So there is definitely a lot of people. The people that are Israeli that live there, they are the complete. They're like Nazis that fully drank the Kool-Aid. They truly believe it. And even the Israelis that want them to just sort of give a little food because we don't look bad, it isn't because they care. They just don't want to look bad. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. They still feel perfectly like valid in doing what they're doing. So it's like that too far gone, too far gone. Like, so I don't know exactly where that line is, like, but I think everybody you have to determine it on a person by person basis. But the people that are too far gone are not worth the time, because the majority, they're a very small group of people, like a bell curve, right? So it's like, we can't waste our time with them.
I even pointed out that anytime, I don't know if this is common in the heartland, but I know that you see this amongst people in Miami. And I know how you talked about getting violent. I mean, there is one particular guy in South Florida that I would really, really like to hurt.
He's like
really
dying. You're dying to just go beat the crap out of him.
Because he's such a fuck. And of course, he's physically of the type of size that I would feel comfortable going after. Like he's 6'2", he's a little beefy, but
you wouldn't feel like you were picking on a guy.
Not at all. Like if I went after David Pakman, I would have to flick with my finger. He would fall over so easily. I mean, those types of emasculated men, and those are always the most dangerous. I always feel like emasculated men are the most dangerous men with power, because they have this desire. It's sort of like the Hillary Clinton effect. I'll show you how tough I am. I'll bomb all those countries, and you'll know that I'm tough too. Randy Fine, another great example.
You saw him, right? Okay, well, he's our gift from Florida. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't look at me. You can totally thank me.
We promoted and hosted the person who was running against him. I mean, it's not our district, either of our districts, but no, Randy Fine is a complete piece of shit. He's always been a piece of shit. It's just a piece of shit.
Let them talk. But let them talk, because the more they talk, especially now, the faster we're going to get to a resolution to this problem, because the people have had enough. And we have a lot of crossover with populist right libertarians. They are done with this shit.
Yeah.
They are, they may support Trump in terms of policy that they agree with, but the Israel policy has become overwhelming. And now they're recognizing that something dramatic has to happen. And the severing of ties with Israel is not going to completely solve all of the economic, political, and cultural problems that we have in the United States, but it will be a significant step in the right direction. And it will allow us to finally change the way things are done here in this country. But make no mistake, the control that Israel has had, and vice versa, for 75 years, like, this has to end. It has to end. It has to end for the soldiers that were on the USS Liberty, that the Navy soldiers that are still seeking justice today. And they know the only reason they didn't get it was because it was Israel. That is the only time, keep in mind, in the history of this country in which we were unprovokingly attacked by a foreign nation and we didn't respond. It's the only time it ever happened. So it should stand to reason. I wouldn't consider myself an atheist. I would consider myself much more of an agnostic, spiritual in that regard. And I understand how important religion is to a lot of people. And part of the reason why, whether it is, evangelicals in the heartland, Jews in the Southeast or the Northeast, the people that say that they're atheists, they scare religious people more than anybody else because they have a free mind. And the people who have clung to religion as a part, if not a substantial part of their identification, they can't see a world where people like you exist. That's why so much of that culture is sheltered. They don't allow people to travel. They're not going, 3 counties over. That's about as far as they're going. So when they think about, how much they have to keep them in a box, I say that technology is our greatest asset and it's our greatest detriment at the same time.
I agree.
The reason it's a great asset is because it does open up the minds of people in places like Oklahoma that would otherwise not have been aware of this. And that's where these conversations become possible. I think that what you're doing is immensely important. And as we pointed out at the top, there really isn't that many ex-Christian Zionists that are commentating. So it's not surprising that you're blowing up, as you should.
Yeah.
Because your
it's appreciated. It's appreciated.
Somebody in Arkansas is going to hear your message. Somebody in East Texas is going to hear your message. Somebody in Tennessee and Louisiana is going to hear your message. And they're going to say, I guess I'm not alone.
Yeah. And they are reaching out. I am connecting with them. Thank you for saying that. It does help to know that I might be moving the needle even just a little bit. And again, that is why I formalized speaking about this as opposed to just my random rants on an Instagram story here and there, and I think the same goes for you guys. The more we can have these conversations. But before I hopped on, I think you guys were talking a little bit about we can talk about Project Esther and the deplatforming of a lot of these conversations. And I know that's a very serious worry or concern. Maybe we all need to get our backup YouTubes that are super vlog heavy going with a lot easier, more palatable content. I don't know, but props to you guys as well. I think all of us are kind of anyone who's deconstructed about any of these hierarchies on any level, right? It is happening more and more from the studies, from the information gathering I've been doing about religious exodus, people leaving religion, that is increasing as well because these systems are so intertwined. Politics and religion here in the United States is so intertwined that we are kind of deconstructing from all of these harmful narratives altogether. And so here we are, whatever we can do, right?
Yeah. So yes, but no. Project Esther, which has been like a lot of people have been talking about it lately, is another goodie given to us from the heritage people, that same people that brought us Project or whatever 2025, which that's just been another name for what they've been trying to do forever and a day. But Project Esther is this particularly insidious component where they seek to crack down on any sort of anti-Zionism, how to do that, and specifically targeting universities and college campuses to go against the speech, to get everybody in line with the Zio project. Like that, it's pretty specific, like their plan to do it. And we've talked about it before, but there's definitely a lot of people that have done a good job discussing it. Have you covered it on your channel?
No, I'm still looking into it. I just kind of recently heard about it. But
Sabby Sabs did a good job kind of going through that. And I mean, I've heard other people talk about it too, but it's another way for the Heritage Foundation people to try to just stifle all dissent. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And keep an eye on those that are going to try to pretend that they were on board with the Palestinian people. The internet is forever.
That's correct.
People that said the things that they said, it won't soon be forgotten. Same with it's amazing. It truly is amazing how long this has been going on. When you think about all the things that have transpired, all the things that we went through, all the experiences that, when Jen decided as a political partnership that Jen was going to run for Congress again, but that Israel-Palestine was going to be a central focus of the campaign. And that it basically was a political death sentence by doing it. At the same time, it has advanced this message that so desperately needed to get out there. Whatever little change you can make in the upper middle class areas of West Broward County, Florida, where so many of these Zionists live, it's minute compared to the change that we can make using this platform to reach what now, from what we're observing, we have developed an audience that now is reaching all different parts of Europe, which is amazing. I didn't think it would get to that point. I mean, Jen and I, we remember doing the show. We would be happy when we would get 30 live viewers.
It's
honestly these high watermarks and everything changes, but we never forget Sable Miner, Jimmy Zimzam.
No, we know our people.
We know we've been with us all the way. And that's, I think, the mark that you're going to discover, because you're genuine. You are not doing this to get rich and figure out a way to get, $5,000, $10,000 a month, in Patreons and all that stuff. If it happens, wonderful. But the content is what matters. That's what this is about. There are plenty of problems out there for us to talk about.
That's what Anton Dilemma says. Love the way you guys shout out other decent channels. Solidarity always. My goal has always been to build the biggest web. The more channels we connect with other channels, the bigger our web gets. That's how it works. So anybody who is on my mission of fighting for the least of these and promoting justice and self-determination for all peoples, those are my people. So I can work with those people and cross promote, and we don't have to really even discuss little minutia of politics. That's the beauty of having a broad mission. You know what I mean? Like a greater mission. And I think it's really important. And I appreciate you being in this space now.
I appreciate this conversation and everything you guys are doing. I commend you for it. You've been in the game a lot longer than I have.
Well, you know what? We are anytime, and I'm always happy to cross-pollinate.
Yeah, likewise, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Guys, the links are in the description. Make sure you subscribe to Kayse Melone's channel. She has got some really great content up. She informed our lovely friend Rachel that she is going to be responding or commenting on our conversation this evening, which is also great. We'll probably see a bump from that too. Again, cross-pollination. Each other. And we thank you for spreading this message. You've been an excellent guest, and we certainly hope that you will come back and join us again sometime in the near future.
We'll do a religion thing. Like we're big into like doing like different panels and we'll bring on and I, not that I'm gonna like deal with the person telling me that I don't ever criticize Islam. I'm an atheist. I don't I have no preference. I assure you, it's pretty much all the same with varying levels of, strangeness. But no, I'd love to have that discussion. We should definitely do that. But yeah, I look forward to seeing you again in our little space.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you guys again. I look forward to further conversations for sure.
Thanks, Kayse.
Thanks, Kayse.
Bye.
So
she was lovely.
Yes.
She was lovely.
And knows her shit, and obviously has gone through a lot of hell like you have, which is a testament to
double. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I never had to deconstruct religion. Right? I had to deconstruct a particular ideology that infected people of my religion. Right?
Well, I don't know if anybody goes to that particular experience. If you're Jewish, for example. But what I will say is that if you are brought up in the evangelical denomination or some form of an evangelical denomination of Christianity, whatever form of Protestantism that may have been, Pentecostal, Baptist, etc., when you're brought up to basically be told that if you don't do as the church says, you are going to burn in hell, that is one hell of an anvil sitting over your head as a child as you're developing. And to deconstruct that, I think, is very, very hard. Let's not get distracted right now.
No, I just want to say, does Jen have any thoughts on other religions? Actually, that's actually a decent question. I personally don't subscribe to isms. It's not my thing. I don't like the idea of groupthink. I think it's dangerous. I think it leads to injustice and oppression. But that being said, people that have their own individual connection with whatever their spiritual guide is, whatever leads them to their feeling of wholeness and like connection to the universe, whether that's a god or whatever it is, that's all fine and dandy to me. My issue is when it commandeers the rules of morality and dictates how people should live in this idea of groupthink and then becomes judgmental of other people. So anything that's in the realm of groupthink and judging others that are not within your group, I don't like that in any capacity, religious or otherwise. So that's my thing. But if somebody, like Buddhists, for example, perfectly, that seems like totally cool to me. You do your thing, you whatever, that's all good. I'm not big on forcing others and proselytizing and all of that stuff. Not my bag. So that's my thoughts on general religions.
Teresa, thank you so much for the $10 for the G damned algorithm. We know what the G stands for. We always appreciate you being here. You're always one of our favorites. It means a lot. Douglas Dimmadome, thank you for the $2. If the algorithm does not respond, I will sue. Well, I don't know who you're going to sue, but they don't really like us very much to begin with. So we have to accept that reality. Although I think we did creep to about 200 live viewers. That's our hard mark for tonight. Brett Boyle, our wonderful new volunteer who is our mod. Thank you so much for the 3 Canadian A getting in on the action. We very much appreciate it. Bamboo 59, thank you for becoming a YouTube member.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate that very much. And one of our tried and true OGs, Mario, thank you for the $2. Super sorry this is late, but HBD, Peter, and Jen.
Both of us. Thank you, Chromium. And here's what's so funny is that because I saw that Chromium was in the chat, I was very much particularly had to go, she was lovely, because I know that he appreciates that.
I think we all appreciate that. And remember, guys, if you are here and any amount of support that you choose to provide for as little as $5 a month, you become a supporter of our small but slowly but mightily growing channel. We did cross the 25,000 subscriber mark. We had another semi-viral clip that went out the other day that is probably approaching 35,000 views. And with that comes a lot more subscribers and a lot more viewers of the channel, and the live streams grow. So it's been a process, but we're obviously very grateful that all of you are here. And Thursday night is going to be Jen's last show before she takes off. And for some reason, Jen decided to leave. Now I didn't want you to leave that quickly, Jen. I mean,
I know I'm here now. I was having technical problems. So, but I will be, guys, I will be gone for 3 weeks. I will be uploading content so that you'll be able to still see me making content on our channel while I'm gone, but I won't be able to be on the live streams. And then when I'm back, we have a whole lot of really cool things in store, not the least of which our first guest scheduled for my first day back will be none other than Norman Finkelstein. And that's just, it's a very cool thing to be looking forward to.
Some of our guest hosts that will be joining me while Jen is away will include Zaina Day, Steve Grumbine, and Ron Placone. So you're definitely going to want to check out some of these upcoming episodes. And of course, I'm going to have a little bit of independence in terms of things that we will talk about, but the message is going to remain the same for the most part. So a lot of the content that you are seeing, you're going to be able to come here and enjoy. Hopefully you guys will be okay with it just being me. Hopefully the numbers for the show won't suffer. If I have to do impressions the entire time, whatever's going to keep you here.
No, you guys, but that's why I'm going to also give you some video content. So it should be like just to sort of maintain some amount of continuity. But you're fine. People miss pontificating with Peter. I'm telling you.
Well, I guess that's what they're going to get. So we'll see. We hope you guys do.
You're having people come on, and you're having guests, and you're going to have co-chairs, co-hosts.
Yes. Well, it will be interesting. But we obviously have more content to cover before the night is over. And of course, when it comes to the story of Elias Rodriguez, now, I still think it's way too early to be casting too much judgment. But what I will say, as we have been saying for a while, that the Zionists make it very easy to side with vigilantism because all they know how to do is bury themselves where they stand. What do I mean by that? Well, here's the cover of the New York Post from yesterday. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Guy Christensen, friend of the show, huge supporter of Jen. This is the guy that they decide to put on the cover of the New York Post. Now, granted, the New York Post it's actually the oldest newspaper in the United States today. It is a newspaper that is conservative. And if any of you know about the conservative Zionist brigade that exists in New York City, I can't really say that this is entirely surprising. With that being said, this whole idea of pinning it on somebody like Guy Christensen, that he's the reason that Elias Rodriguez did the deed, I think I don't know, Jen, how would you describe it? Because it seems pretty desperate.
It's very desperate. It's using not only an opportunity to distract, and I also think is a false flag, but then taking further advantage to connect it to Guy Christensen somehow, as if to use that as another means of like doxing him, because that's what they're doing. This is basically them putting him on a hit list. And you know, he probably is totally accepts that, you know what I mean? That's just the nature of what we're doing, and that's just how it goes.
I'm sure he gets a kick out of it.
Yeah, it's a scream of desperation. But again, I believe that whole thing is false flag. There is nothing about that is organic to me. Nothing. So, you know, we could be arguing about this for years to come and not ever finding out the answer. But something about the whole timing of that is way too convenient. And I will not believe it's organic. I will need to see so much significant evidence and credible testimony to believe that this is just some real, you know, diehard pro-Palestinian supporter. Not going to believe it.
Well, we do have some information that was brought to our attention regarding this particular gentleman. Colin, can you please update the tweets that I sent over? We don't need that one that's there right now. We need the one that includes the information about Elias Rodriguez. Just a brief description of who this guy is all about. And
he's a plant. He's a plant.
Perhaps. I'm not going to say that he isn't. I'm saying that all the information that we have, which is still somewhat limited, is that he's 30 years old. He's from Chicago. He has no criminal record. Bachelor of Arts from the University of Illinois, oral history researcher at History Makers. Focus on biographies of African-American leaders. Member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. According to Adam E. Medea, and he's a pretty big pro-Palestine account, classic nudge op. Well, he may be right.
Look, I have been to enough of these marches, protests, actions, meetings, you name it, okay? And nothing in the movement, nothing would lend itself to this in any way. This is completely bad for the Palestinian, like nobody who's, and the people that are standing up the loudest in the Palestinian space, whether it's Jewish Voice for Peace or Palestinian Students for Justice or whatever the groups, these are peace people. That's the point. These are peace people. And if they wanted to start like offing local Israelis, I think they would have started about a year and a half ago. That's what I think.
Well, Ozma agrees with you, Jen.
Yeah, no, it's, and you know, just the timing of it. You guys think that's a coincidence that happened after the shooting at the Diplomats, after we see the tide turning, after we see Netanyahu tell his own people in his little cabal that, oh yeah, I got to let a little food in because some of our allies, some of our, you know, people that are generally allow us to do whatever we want, their people are giving them a hard time. So we have to let some aid in. That's what this is. It's just a distraction from the starvation of the children in Gaza and all, I shouldn't say children, from the complete starvation and what is going on in Gaza. It is a distraction. And I will not, and by the way, perfectly highlights the complete racist, like sentiment of the media in this country, of people in this country, that within 48 hours, all they could talk about was two white people, by the way, one of whom was IOF. Right there, that's someone who's not an innocent person. Okay. Also not Jewish, and neither of them are Semites. And the woman, and I don't even know their names, but I wouldn't promote it if I did, was basically a cheerleader, or the Queen of Hasbara. This was somebody who put together all the brainwashing trips for the Zios. So these are not just two random people. Neither of them are Semites. And the entire thing of this just reeks of distraction. We don't want you to look at what's going on in Gaza. Oh my God, we're losing sympathy from the world. Yes, you are. Because you are psychotic genocidal maniacs. That's why.
Also,
this is absurd.
And how would he have known to target those particular two, especially one that had, that level of influence? But you see it with the Zionists when they come out and say, may their memory be a blessing. You think they said that about the children that just starved, or the 9 children that were just bombed?
That's the thing. That should be what's been on the news for the past 12 hours, not these two tools. And yes, they're tools. And no, I do not support just randomly shooting people. I don't support shooting people. I am unarmed. I've not killed people. I don't shoot at people.
How do we know that, Jen? How do we know that?
You could check my record that I've never had a gun. I mean, I am unarmed. It's not my thing. But at the end of the day, those are people that put themselves into a situation they have chose a situation and an ideology that is currently committing a genocide. And those two people are active participants. Now, whether or not this particular guy was set up for those two particular people, or it could have been just anybody at that function, because all of the people at that function were people that were in with the Zio state. Has nothing to do with Judaism. Again, the guy wasn't Jewish. He was a Christian Zio from Israel. Again, not Semites. They look pretty white to me. It's interesting how everybody cares when two white people are killed, but yet say it's anti-Semitic. Well, pick it. Are they, you care because they're white? Because that generally seems to be what gets everybody's attention. Yeah. Well, the whole thing is infuriating, and I will need to see so much evidence about this case, that guy, Elias, whatever, any of it, before I will think anything other than this is a Zio tactic to just get the conversation back on sympathy for them. You're not getting it. It's not happening. That ship sailed. I don't care if somebody shoots up every single person that you deem to be, oh no, one of ours. Still not getting my sympathy. Sorry, ship sailed.
Well, leave it to, again, our good friend James Lee to provide some much needed commentary on this topic.
I guess I have to say this, but these two people did not deserve to die. I read that he had just proposed to her or is about to propose to her. Either way, I do not condone what happened to them. But what I will say is that this tragedy was very convenient to the country for which they served. Because just yesterday, said country fired warning shots at foreign diplomats who were visiting. A delegation representing 31 countries, including Italy, Canada, Egypt, and the UK, had to run for cover. Not a great situation. Their official story is that they had fired warning shots at this group of diplomats and journalists because their tour had veered into an unauthorized area. Ryan Grimm commented that even if every word of that story is true, it is still a deranged, unhinged thing to do.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Those people shouldn't be here.
So in other words, and this is the thing that is
you
so
first
great.
Ask questions later.
No, this is what's great. So when Israel, of course, when they're, and again, they're lying when their lips are moving, but when they get confronted by the countries whose diplomats were shot at, and their sort of response is, oh, it was a mistake. We didn't know it was them. Translation. We thought it was Palestinian people. We thought it was women and children. Our bad. Sorry.
To which I say I completely agree. Anyway, a day later, this other horrible thing happens. And I'm not saying that this isn't a coincidence, but the end result is that today the media cycle has completely shifted. Okay, the same search terms are now conveniently yielding very different results. Funny how that works. Anyway, the last thing I'll say about this is that I think it's just a really bad sign for this country that a heinous act of violence like that happens and a not so insignificant percentage of the population thinks either A, they had it coming, or B, that it was some kind of false flag operation perpetrated by the victims themselves. Not an ideal situation, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's going to backfire. It is too late. If you wanted to play the false flag game, you would have had to do that at least a year and a half ago. Way too late for that. Too many people have seen it. Mask off. We just don't buy it anymore. And again, those are, I am very loath to use the term innocent for people that are perpetrating and conspiring to commit genocide. So when you work for a Zionist regime and you promote the Zionist entity and your primary function is one of those people to kill for that Zio entity, meaning the people that you're occupying, or the other person's job, which is to create propaganda trips to brainwash people about what your Zio state is doing. So again, I do not think people deserve to get shot. I don't. But this is not random. And it has nothing to do with the pro-Palestine movement. It has everything to do with Zio hell and them trying to change the narrative.
I think that that's an angle that not enough people really want to talk about, is that there are so many instances, you know, it's all related to something like the Gulf of Tonkin, which years later was, of course, proven that it was a false flag, that it was deliberately done by the United States to start the Vietnam War, or to accelerate it to the point in which it was just, you know, a full-blown war with a draft and everything. These are how trying to push the narrative ends up happening. It changes as a result because of the fact that the narrative is not working for the Zionist state anymore. It's not working for our country. You think that the average congressperson wants to be seeing Medea Benjamin in the halls of Congress, like, oh shit, I got to deal with her again. It's like, yeah, you should be inconvenienced. You're all accessories to genocide as far as I'm concerned.
They shouldn't have to think that. They shouldn't have to be upset to see Medea. Why? Why? They should just be representing their people and being non-psychopathic and actually doing public service. And then they'd probably be really happy to see Medea because she wouldn't be there to harass them. She'd probably be there to bring them like donuts or something. But because of the psychotic world we live in, and her job has to be, unfortunately, harassing them because they're psychotic genocide supporters. I am so irate. I can't even, you know what? These two people that got killed, chose to be where they were, chose to be outwardly supporting a Zio state. The 9 babies of the pediatrician that were killed, those are innocent people. Those are innocent people. The 40-something people that were killed yesterday in a bomb, those are innocent people. 2 people propping up Zio genocide are not innocent. Sorry. And therefore, in my opinion, not worthy of the same coverage.
Couldn't agree more. But what we have to realize, and now I finally put the light on in the back. So you think it looks better this way, Jen?
I don't see anything different, but I do. But also the sun has gone down. So it's also different lighting than it was when we started.
Well, no. Well, what I did was I have the light in front and then I have the light in back now. So I have 2 lights.
All right, good. You're very well lit. You're so well lit. I can hardly, you're lit.
I am pretty white though.
You are white.
I am white.
You are white. Here's something that
I'll never get mistaken for something other than Anglo-Saxon. That's
no. Sure. And here's the thing: like this, normally when I've traveled to places, I go to places where my whiteness is very apparent. Okay, whether it's for whatever reason, whether it's Costa Rica, whatever it is, like when I travel. So this trip will be like the first trip where I've gotten or when I went to Portugal or Spain, like I was very, very white. Not that there's not white people in Iberia, because there are, but I will definitely not stand out as much in Ireland as I have in other places.
Well, I'm sure you're looking forward to that for sure.
Well, look, I won't glow in the dark comparatively like that. It'll be kind of funny.
Now, I know we constantly talk about the deconstruction of the Zionist state and the control that it has. And of course, when we think about the Epstein story, and we obviously only talk about it if there's a relevant component to it, because
I prefer it.
Yeah, silly. However, when you put two people, I don't even give a rat's rear end about Dan Bongino, because to me, he's just another blowhard.
Mario, it was a quick mistake. I was making an edit to the banner. Sorry about that. Continue.
But with that said, Kash Patel is somebody that the MAGA movement was very excited about getting into a position of power. They thought that for sure, if he becomes the head of the FBI, that he is not only going to release the JFK files, that he's going to release the Epstein files. But we know from our good friend Ken McCarthy, who we still insist you read his book, JFK and RFK versus Zionist Extremism. Now, what is the common element between the JFK assassination and Epstein Island? Well, it's also what the common element is in basically every war that has been fought for the past 75 years, the state of Israel. Whatever connections Epstein had, whether he was actually a Mossad agent, was working directly with the Israeli government, which of course he was, why then do they insist on making a statement like this?
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
Well, that settles it. I guess we could just all stop talking about it now. I will forever use the term Epstein as a verb for a reason. Sorry, I can't with that guy. He looks like a deer in headlights.
What, you don't like people whose eyes are like this? I mean, come on, haven't you ever seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
It's ridiculous. I can't with him. But he's also, to me, you know what? He reminds me of Joe Pesci's character from Lethal Weapon. He's Leo Getz. That's what Kash Patel reminds me of. He's Leo Getz. He gets it. He gets what you need. You need it? I get it.
Leo Getz.
He's Leo Getz for Donald Trump. That's how I think.
Saul Good has it right. He's right behind me, huh? Yeah, he has that look. I was like, he's standing behind me, isn't he?
It's so funny.
But when the demand is coming from all sides, when the demand is coming from everywhere, release these files. And if you do not, we know that you're hiding something significant. Why would you hide them? Because they are protecting people that are extremely important to the system.
Let's just say Kash got the memo. He got the memo.
His mind right.
Somebody, exactly. That's what it is. He got his mind right. Mm-hmm. That's how De Niro would say it, right?
I'm not sure how De Niro would say it.
It's very Godfather-y. It's very like, you get your mind right. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's very family.
Well, there is another clip, and this one is of Dan Bongino. This is the first one, but this one is very telling because what it actually shows you is how opinions can change when you're on the outside versus when you're on the inside. It's pretty stark.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Huh. That's quite an interesting change in tune he has. Although I do see that he's sitting there very quietly now. He doesn't seem to have a whole lot to say now. He's just sitting there.
I heard things. Little. He insulted him a little bit. Got a little out of order himself.
You have the mannerism, but you can't get the tone. The tone is wrong, but the mannerism is right.
No. Don't give me that.
You know, I give you constructive imitating criticisms.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little, yes. Like I said, insulted him.
I mean, but I don't even really know who this is.
So Dan Bongino is I believe he was a cop, and he's been a huge Trump supporter for many years. And he tries to come off like this. Again, the whole we the people, 1776, should be out in the field, living in the, like up in the mountains with the gun. And
you had me up until the gun. You had me up until I'm good with everything up until but yeah, living up in the mountains sounds good.
Yeah, again,
in the fields. Is he a farmer? All good things. You're losing me. Anybody who feels the need to wear "We the People" on their shirt, I think, has a chip on their shoulder. But that's just my take.
You want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of acres.
Okay, your Arnold's gotten pretty good though.
Let me just say, I haven't met Dan Bongino, but he looks like he's got some muscles. He come into my gym and he lifts the power with the biceps and the triceps and the chest and the back and everything. Can you believe it? I believe that you go so far, you create such an audience, and then you let people down. They're going to see right through whatever bullshit you're trying to sell.
Okay, so get to what he's doing now, because this is sort of new
outside
to me.
of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself.
Wow.
Boy, that changed fast.
Woo! Man, he got the memo quick. Oh, what do they have on you, sir? What do they have on you, sir? Oh,
without even explaining it, he killed himself.
Oh, that's pretty bad. Like,
you guys want an impression?
I hope that this stuff, I hope that when these things come up like this, that it at a minimum cuts his credibility with his own people. You know what I mean? Like, where the people that might have followed him or thought he was onto something in 23 because they are also, Second Amendment enthusiasts or whatever, or that made them drawn to this guy. I don't know. The We the People. But then when they see this level of turnaround, a lot of those people get turned off. That is what's happening to a lot of the MAGA people now. And it's because of shit like that. That sounds like such a sellout answer unless he gave significantly more explanation and then show the evidence. Show the evidence. Like, if it's so clear, that it was a suicide, then walk us through it. I don't want to personally watch, but there's many people that don't mind that kind of stuff. They'll be happy to watch and watch you take them through. You got the pictures. You have notes.
Sometimes in the court of public opinion, it doesn't matter if you actually have the truth presented. The evidence is overwhelming that you're hiding something. The evidence is overwhelming that Jeffrey Epstein was connected to Israeli intelligence. How do we know this? How do we know it just on surface level? Because his partner was Ghislaine Maxwell, whose own father has a statue of himself in Israel. That's how much Mr. Robert Maxwell was revered. That's enough. I don't need any other connection. I just know that one's there.
Yeah, no, he was Mossad. I mean, he was Mossad asset. And I don't even think that that's in question. Her father was that. I think that's just a known thing. Now,
But if
I
they-
still, and this is the truth,
course.
I still do not understand the interconnectedness of things like the Mossad with Epstein and how the Clintons are involved. And does this now involve Diddy and all this stuff? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But what I do know is these are some unbelievably psychotic, evil people. So nothing would surprise me. When people get to a certain level of they can get away with whatever they want, that level impunity, like somebody like Hillary Clinton, when you could do whatever you want and have whatever you want, and you're never going to have to answer for it. And you also are a psychopath. Those two things colliding is the problem with a lot of these people. So these psychopaths that have complete impunity. But I don't know the interconnect. Like, I still don't understand exactly how it all works. I don't buy into the pizza.
I think there's somebody who
kind of weird, but
I think there is somebody who can explain how it all works.
Okay, here it is. Tell me.
In case you were wondering, because I haven't been here for a while, I had to come on here and let everybody know the secrets lie with me, Hillary, and anyone else who is going to take it right to their grave. Of course, I apologize for any and all lives that I may have affected. Not really, I'm just kidding. I had a really great time on that island, and I just don't need those records coming out. But Willie's going to play Slick, and Slick Willie lives forever. How are you, Jen?
You should be in prison.
Remember, I'm the one who built the prisons. I did do that, you know. That's what the crime bill was all about.
With the help of Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe, Crooked Joe, Dying Joe, Cancer-stricken Joe. Well, all those things. It's really terrible. You know, I beat cancer. I don't think he's gonna, just a hunch.
Here's my response to Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis.
Oh, tell me. Oh, Jen, don't you have a heart? I understand that Joe's responsible for a lot of dead people and incarcerated people and overall sick people and not getting their health care people, but can't you have a little sympathy for that guy?
No.
I mean, do you see who he's married to? He and I have a kid.
She should be being prosecuted for elder abuse and fraud. So yeah, I know who he's married to. The good doctor that for some reason the whole world saw that her husband was having dementia, but she didn't see it. No, I think she did. I think she's just an opportunistic person.
Well,
and like her life in the scene. But yeah, make no mistake, she should be prosecuted as well.
Oh, believe me, she should just be prosecuted for calling herself a doctor. Let me tell you, she shows up at all these functions and calling herself, you got to call me Dr. Biden. Like, doctor of what? Doctor of incoherence, perhaps? That's all she's really ever been good for. She took full advantage of that guy, Joe, just like Hillary took full advantage of the Clinton name. She thought she was going to be president riding off of my coattails. Well, as we know, it didn't work out so well. And it ain't going to work out for anybody who's trying to take me down. Slick Willie lives forever, at least until I'm not living anymore. So I apologize that you guys got your hopes up about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. And, well, let's just be honest. There's a lot of dirty tricks and tools I still have left in my tool shed, and I will employ them as I see fit. Listen, Iranian, whoever the hell you are, look, Vince Foster finally had enough. And he decided to put 2 bullets in the back of his head. It happens.
It happens. It happened to the U.S. attorney down here. It happens.
It was really unfortunate. I got to tell you, it really sucks when people make really hard decisions. And sometimes that involves taking themselves out with multiple shots from an angle that's almost impossible to pull off. But hey, when you really want to go, you do what you got to do. So with that said, I hope you're all doing well, but as I said, Clintonism is neoliberalism, and it's here to stay, and fascism is slowly creeping in. Sorry.
Thanks to you. Yeah, that was great.
But I will not apologize because I did not do anything wrong. Remember that. Bye.
That's a good point. Saul Good says MAGA's getting Bernie. They turn out new boss the same as the old one. Exactly. It's when the Bernie people realize that he was just ultimately a shill for the party. And now the Trump people realize that he's not going to do anything that he said he was going to do. He's not anything different.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, even as something as silly as that, like if you're going to try and sell that, at least sell something that's plausible.
Okay, again, here's what I'm saying then, okay? Let's say that's true.
trying,
And by the
Victoria,
way, people do hang themselves in cells. That does happen. They use sheets, they use whatever. He was on suicide watch, so that's really interesting because you would think that then you wouldn't be having access to stuff. So there was that. But let's say hypothetically he did kill himself. Okay, show us the evidence, walk us through it, explain it. Again, that's the problem with this. Show us that. The secret nature is the problem. If he really did, and then there's evidence, which I'm sure there is because somebody was in there with photos and there was a whole CSI team and there was a whole thing. Show us. Then, okay. But no one believes you. No one believes you. Like that. I mean, it's just, that's like Israel's doing its own investigation. Okay. Nobody believes you. We know you're a lying piece of shit.
Now, I know the knee-jerk reaction is to just blame Netanyahu, that he is the reason that we are going through everything that we're going through, that if we just got rid of Netanyahu, that would solve the problem. Now, of course, that's not the answer. However, to suggest that Netanyahu has not been at the center of almost every controversial decision this country's been involved in for well over a generation now. Watch this.
If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran.
He's such a fuck. He's such a fuck. Like,
however, can I just say that, wait. But I do want to say, like, when we say it isn't him, I mean that. If it weren't him, it would pretty much be anyone that would be speaking for them. And anybody who wouldn't be doing this would get unalived. So if it weren't him, it would be whoever it was. That's the point. Same as what I said about what's her name that was our UN person who vetoed the ceasefire 3 times. It would be whoever was sitting there. That's all I wanted to say. And he is a shit.
I'd like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes. The first victory in Afghanistan makes the second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier too, but it may change the nature of achieving that victory. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
Yes, you're the barbar or the barbarian.
Exactly.
And the Palestinians are the civilization.
Right. Everything he says is true. Everything he says is actually true about Israel. That's what's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's a mask off moment for sure.
I also want to say something about who he refers to as his Arab friends. His Arab friends. People who have been following this for all know I really do not like the term Arab. I just don't get any good qualification as to what that is. And I think it's just inherently used in a white supremacist manner. I don't necessarily think the word is bad, but I do think that we use it as I was taught, whereas all the brown people in that area are all interchangeable. They're just Arabs because they're not Jews. And what is so screwed up about that, as we have said many times, is, yeah, there were a lot of people in that area that are Palestinian or from the Levant and wherever they're from that were Jews. And they are also brown people. But the point is he's not one of them. But I don't like the term Arab. But the Arab friends that he's referring to are Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, our vassal states, our little, I'd say West Asia, but then Egypt's North Africa, but like that segment of American empire that works on our behalf because of what we give them in return. They are not a people. They are not a people. Those are just well, the Egyptians are a people. Again, this sort of doesn't, if it's more of a Jordan, Saudi Arabia thing, but like those are his friends. He's so, like, it's just.
Yeah, he's heading into Mussolini territory as I see it. That's what I think is going to happen to him. And maybe
honestly, here's hoping. Here's hoping.
Yeah,
and
he needs to be strung up in the town square.
And I've said it before, and if you're new and I have an opportunity to educate based on the amount of research I've done over the past few years, which is inordinate amount of research. So the Arabs, because people refer to that as just like brown people from that area. Well, here's the problem. People who speak Arabic are from a lot of different places. They're from a lot of different places. They have a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different ethnicities, a lot of different nationalities, and they speak Arabic, but not all of them are what you or other people like, and I say you like Netanyahu is referring to as Arabs. What we would say are what Arabs. And it's just messed up. Now, people from the Levant region, your Syrians, your Lebanese, Palestinians, Jordanians, some of the people in portions of Iraq, those are all very similar peoples. Those are all the people of when the Ottoman Empire was in charge. It's similar, that is. And then we, of course, divided them up into little groups and said, you're this, you're that, they're other. So I'm not saying that Lebanese people and people from Jordan are interchangeable, but the Levant peoples are a people, but they're not necessarily what everybody would consider Arabs. There are white Syrians that are very white. I know a Syrian woman's whiter than me. So when we say, I just do not like the term Arab, and just him saying it is so just, it's so white supremacist. It's just disgusting.
Well, let's end on a positive note. A person that is probably responsible for or a person we covered responsible for the suppression that our channel has suffered through for years, but made a point at the Cannes Film Festival to let it be known where he stands on what's going on in Israel-Palestine.
Where we're supposed to scream, "We love you, Julian!"
Wearing a T-shirt with 4,986 names of Palestinians who were murdered.
I believe children. Yeah.
The ideology will fall. It is our job to spread the word.
Hey guys, I know Arabs are Semites. Like, I know what we're talking about. And I know that there are Arabic peoples that refer to themselves as Arabic, and that's fine. I don't have it right. But when white Ashkenazi Zios use the term Arabic, it is so completely racist. And they do think of them as lesser and other. So from the nuance and context with which I was raised, it just really strikes a bad chord with me. But I know that the word is not inherently bad, but it allows white people to generalize about an entire group of people, and they have no concept what they're talking about. And he's a racist fuck. That's why.
You're talking about Bibi.
Yes.
Yeah. Well.
Saying the Arabs. Again, it's contextual, people. Context and nuance matters. Yes, I know there's an Arabian Peninsula, and I know that there are people that are from that area, and yeah, we would call them Arabs. That's not what he's talking about. When he says our Arab friends, he means the brown people that we've gotten to do our bidding for us against their own people. That's what he means. And I know that's what he means. And that's why it's disgusting. Okay.
Jen's final show for the next few weeks will be Thursday. Our guest will be one of a guest that we have had before and we think very highly of, Steven Donziger. Talk about a real mensch. It's an appropriate word. He not only stood up against the worst environmental destructors in Chevron.
I agree, Hunkai. Don't call him that anymore, Peter. We all agree. I've always thought that. We don't need to make him sound friendly and personal.
Who?
Nettie Hoo Hoo.
Oh.
Stop calling him by his cutie little nickname. We don't like it.
Oh, BB? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Again, we don't like it.
Can I just call him bitch then?
Call him whatever, but just that makes, I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with the people in the chat are having an issue and I don't like it either. It's icky. It's like he's a friend. He's not a friend.
Well, I didn't know that. What the fuck is wrong with everybody?
No. I'm just telling you, everyone in the chat. And it would be like us calling Adolf Hitler Addy. You know, Addy, good guy.
Whatever.
I'm just saying.
I wasn't saying it in that regard. I'll call him by, I'll call him by his real name, Milikowski.
There you go.
Milikowski? Whatever.
I don't care. I can tell you what it is. It's not Semitic. And it is most definitely not from the Levant region. It's from.
I'm surprised we didn't get another comment. I'm surprised we didn't get another comment from Debbie. So Debbie popped up. Debbie in her true form. Debbie, if you're still there, if you got anything to say, really would like to put that picture up on display again, because that looks more and more like your true form. You know, that would also. Oh, we got too many comments. I'm never going to find it. Unless, it's like I'm going to try to dig through this thing and try to find the image.
No, but I understand what they're saying. Like, that always did rub me wrong when people refer to him that way. Like, he's our friend. He's not our friend. He's a psychopathic murderer, and he needs to be friggin' in The Hague.
No, he needs to be drawn and quartered. That's what needs to happen. Oh,
I'm trying to have a modicum of respect left in me for international law.
I mean, Debbie really does look like that. You know what you have to do, guys. You got to wear the glasses that Rowdy Piper wears and They Live. Then you'll be able to see Debbie in her true form.
Okay, very few people here know who that is. I do, of course, because I was a big fan and had a poster. But most people don't know who Rowdy was.
Well, I would imagine there are people here that have seen the movie They Live, and they do know what I'm referring to.
Well, I want to say, and I said this to you before, like, for me, it's very much, I feel about certain people. She's one of them. She's by no means the only one. It's when you've gotten to a certain level of awareness, and a certain level of like conscience, and you're a person of conscience, and you have a certain level of awareness, and you see what's going on around us. It's like when you're Charlize Theron in The Devil's Advocate, when she's in the dressing room and Tamara Tooney, and she sees that, and Tamara Tooney's beautiful. No, nothing there, but she sees that thing, that devil in her, and then it goes away, and no one else can see it. When you see what a lot of us see, that's what it's like. And that is what it looks like. Like, when I see people that are evil, that's how they look to me. That's how they look to me. And it wouldn't matter. And that's what I've said about Debbie. Like, that's why I don't want to make fun of the physicality, because the truth is, if she were a nice person, we wouldn't do that. Perhaps. So it's sort of not the point, but that's how I see a lot of people when they show who they are. And it's like, they could be the most gorgeous person in the world. And that's what I will see when I see them. I'm like Shallow Hal inverted.
Yeah, no, she's definitely got fangs, and yeah, she's like a zombie and all those things. And that's kind of what you see. Jen, you have a lot of admirers. That's for sure.
That's sweet.
Yes, perhaps. The movie did tell the truth. In fact, all you really need to see in They Live, if you haven't seen it, and Jen hasn't, there is a segment in the movie that's about 5 minutes long that basically shows exactly what and this is 1988, mind you, the total destruction of what capitalism was ultimately going to result in. Consumerism of the worst kind. But the glasses, that's the scene. Consume, produce, obey, spend. This is your God. And on money, it says, this is your God. It's true.
All right. I don't see movies like that because I don't like to be scared. I don't. Not
It's
only
not a scary, I would no. That's not. I would not call They Live a scary movie like The Thing or Halloween. It's not like that. It's not the same. It's not.
Okay, so you say. I don't.
So I know.
Okay.
Let me
I've
get
had
you to
people
watch
tell me
that one
that
scene.
something's not so scary, and I'll watch it. And I'm like, well, you know, scary is also relative. But I don't understand people that like to be scared. I think that's like, to me, that's a level of masochism that borders on like psychotic. I don't understand people that like to be scared. To me, feeling scared is the worst feeling. Like the worst. So I don't know why anybody would voluntarily want to feel that way.
I agree with that. I mean, it's one thing if you see a horror movie that just happens to be a great movie, like The Exorcist, like Psycho, like Halloween.
Still don't want to feel scared. I can
Fair enough.
recognize they're great.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is that if it's truly a great movie, that's one thing. It's another thing entirely, as we saw, particularly after it's kind of like the post-Halloween effect with Friday the 13th and Sleepaway Camp and things like it's like, you know, these movies are trash. Like they're total, you know, like B to D grade type films. They don't really have they don't have a plot.
Right, they're not
There's no real
Seven.
acting.
Seven-
Exactly. You're not, yeah,
Seven messed me up. That movie messed me up, and that
Which
was the
one?
last time. Seven, and that
Well,
was the
Seven's a
last
great
time.
movie, but I could see.
I can't see that kind of shit.
I
man.
already know what you're referring to.
No,
So
I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it.
all I'm going to tell the audience is that if you've never seen Seven, there is a jump scare in that movie that I don't care how tough you think you are, it will freak the living shit out of
I don't even know if we're talking about the same things, but what I do know, there's a lot of things in that movie, but that to me, whether it's that or stupid crap like Friday the 13th, right? Like I recognize that that's not like, I know there's different genres, but I don't like being startled either. So even though I can look at Friday the 13th and no, I don't worry about like serial killers coming in with masks on it, whatever. I don't like, that's not a real thing. Whereas things like Seven, Silence of the Lambs, that's what I consider to be real scary stuff. That's the kind of shit I cannot watch anymore. No matter how
I'm having a friend for dinner.
yeah, I can't watch shit like that no matter how good it is. But even the stupid scary movies, that's what I'm saying. Just because something looks stupid doesn't mean I want to be startled. I don't get that. Like what? It's so unfun to me. That's all I can say. It is an unfun thing.
Well, a lot of things make you think, but that's the essence of entertainment. I don't go out of my way to be scared. I only have interest in seeing a movie if it's actually good. If it happens to be scary, that's acceptable.
Yeah,
But-
and I'm at the I am where if it's good and someone says it's good but it's scary, I will say, okay, well, thank you for telling me. I'm not going to see it, but I appreciate that it's a good movie, and that's as far as I'll go.
I like what Medea is saying. I used to love horror movies, but most of them turned into stupid jump scare trash. Well, because they all copy a very similar formula. Now, I will tell you, I saw the Blair Witch Project in the movie theater when I was 16. Now, for those of you at the time when the internet was just really starting to become a thing, most people thought that that was a real documentary, that it was based on a real occurrence and that this is what happened. There wasn't a lot of blood and guts or gore or anything like that, but
it was scary.
It was the
I know.
tension that was mounted.
And no, I didn't see it.
Yeah, but it's intense.
Again, I was already at the point when by the time that came out, I was very comfortable and confident in my just general rejection of seeing things that if I even think something might be disturbing or scary to me, then I'm not, you know what? I spend my days watching things like nine babies being killed.
Yeah.
I spend my time with actual real horror. I want my fiction to not be that. That's how I feel. I can't. Yeah. Yeah. I like to watch stupid nonsense when I'm not watching serious shit.
Well, keep in mind, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. And so I grew up with Nickelodeon and Are You Afraid of the Dark? So could you imagine back in like 1990? 1989, somewhere around there. They came up with this show, which was intended for kids to basically scare you. I mean,
I don't want to be scared. Like, I just don't, there's no point. For me, I don't enjoy being scared. I enjoy being sad. Like, I enjoy feeling that emotion. Like, I understand the point of sad movies, you know, like that's a good feeling, you know, to have every once in a while. Like, it's a normal emotion. It comes, it goes. Like, it's one of those things. Like, I'm good with it. But to purposefully put myself to be scared this does not make sense to me.
I think the one that I remember the best was The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. And this, of course, was at the time I was maybe, I don't know, 11, 12 years old. I read the book. R.L. Stine was a decent writer for kids, I would say. I tried to read Stephen King when I was young, which was a mistake. Because Stephen King, who has written some really great books, but he's an out there guy. So there are things that he has written. I don't know how anyone can follow it because he's all over the place. When he writes a great book,
I don't read for the same reasons I don't see scary things. I don't read them either. And if somebody says to me, well, this one isn't that, I'm still just no. There's too many other things that I would want to read that aren't even potentially scary to me. Like, I have no interest in that.
I agree with Justice by Karma, The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike. That is a book that I will never forget. And that, you know, sometimes you read things during your developmental years and you remember them because they had such an impact. And I would definitely say that was he was a writer. He didn't write a lot, but he wrote enough to have an impact. And that particular story was pretty intense. And I think Christopher Pike, did he write The Babysitter? The Babysitter was also a story, a book that was, you know, that I thought was interesting.
I don't read much fiction. I don't have to, honestly, I spend so much time reading nonfiction that it's like, I don't know. Every once in a while, I'll find some fiction that I like, but I just spend so many hours reading nonfiction that it's just hard for me to get into a book.
Pet Sematary, Stephen King says, is what he considers his scariest story. The best story that I read by Stephen King, or the best book, I should say, was Different Seasons. And that was his first short story book. And it was only 4 stories. And they were of considerable length. They weren't like 30, 40-page stories. We're talking, 200 pages, kind of on average. And that was the book that had Shawshank. It had Stand By Me, it had Apt Pupil, and it had The Breathing Method, all 4 that eventually became movies. Shawshank, in particular, was substantially better, as he probably is. I know that he's a neoliberal shill of the worst kind, but Shawshank as a movie was better than the book. And now a lot of times people say that the book is always better. I will say this. The Stand By Me story, as well as Apt Pupil, were much scarier, especially Apt Pupil, as a book than it was as a movie. And I agree with Jen. I understand this idea of why do you, it's one, like I said, if it's good entertainment, I get it. But why would you want to go out of your way to scare yourself?
Well, and look, Jason does, Graham does, they all like that stuff. It's not my thing.
I told you, I was in the living room once with Jason, and he was watching some type of horror movie that was basically like Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, I think, coming to life and killing these it was,
sounds about right.
It was so gory, chauvinistic, and just like
apparently it's something that Colin knows. Colin, I told you you'd get along well with my husband.
There is something so there was nothing scary about it. That's a great 80s horror movie, Don. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
And I also don't like stupid crap a lot.
I don't like stupid crap either.
Oh, I beg to differ, sir. Oh, I beg to differ.
So
I'm sorry. How many times have we been together where you are continuously asking me how it is I've never seen, what is that? Ace Ventura?
You're
Or
gonna bash Ace Ventura now?
whatever stupid crap I cannot believe you just said you don't like stupid shit. Like, I can't even.
Okay, but that's your opinion that it's stupid.
No, that's not my opinion. That's not my opinion. That's just a fact.
For those of you
like
that have been hanging around,
stupid shit.
For those of you that have been hanging around and have been enjoying our and Maeve finally got it right on the first try. Thank you for showing up. It's been an interesting evening in terms of the crowd size.
Can I say, I don't look, I'm not saying that it isn't amusing and entertaining. Okay. And I get it. People like it. I have no judgment on people liking it, but it's stupid. Okay. I think
Pal Sear says
again, and that's another thing. I like the stuff I like Jim Carrey in was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Truman Show. Like there have been things I've really liked Jim Carrey in. But I'm not. Yeah, I don't like potty humor. If it's potty humor, I'm going to think it's dumb. I just am. I'm going to think it's stupid humor. I'm not going to find it. Yeah, I like smart humor. Okay, see, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I don't need to have nightmares. I watch enough real stuff. Good for you, Colin. It's awesome. The Truman Show is awesome. Yeah.
Bill. That's what I'm talking about. So if you've never seen In Living Color, there are clips of Carrey in his early years. It's actually pretty good. Does a great impression of Vanilla Ice.
All right, I will give you one stupid thing that I have liked before. Paul Blart Mall Cop. And I will tell you the scene that is funny to me. And this is very particular because it reminds me of Reese. There is a scene, I don't know if it's the first or second one. I've only seen one, but I don't know, like, I've seen this scene, okay? No, that wasn't that good. But in Paul Blart Mall Cop, there is a scene where the piano player is playing the song and he's, while Paul Blart simultaneously being attacked by like a giant stork or a crane, and it's being done to this music while the classical pianist is playing, but he doesn't know what's going on. And there's this like bird in this thing, and it's like the most ridiculous thing. That was funny to me because it reminded me of my son playing piano while there was like chaos everywhere.
I think we can agree that the best stupid funny movie ever made is definitely Airplane.
That wasn't stupid.
It was funny as hell.
It was smart and it was literal, but it wasn't stupid. It wasn't potty humor. It was actually quite original and clever. And yeah, that's different. That's literal. I don't know what you call that kind of humor. That's not like Ace Ventura. That's not
Jews for Jesus, Scientology, Mormon Church.
Yeah.
That was good. The Robert Stack trying to avoid all of the and apparently when you were a kid, because I was not alive for this, but
I love when you point that out to me like I didn't know what happened when I was a kid.
But when you were a kid, that apparently they were allowed to solicit, churches were allowed to solicit inside airports.
Oh,
like
yes.
Used to be a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, and they never stopped it because of the churches. They stopped it because of the Hare Krishnas. So the Hare Krishnas, which is what was mocked in Airplane, was the Hare Krishnas that come up to you and do that. And for a long time, they would still we would still see the Hare Krishnas at the airports, but they're wearing civilian clothing and trying to blend in.
I can walk.
Yeah, also not my vibe. Also nothing Mel Brooks amuses me. Sorry, just doesn't. I cannot. I just cannot.
What if it turns out that he's not a Zionist?
That's not even the point. I just, and my dad would probably say that Blazing Saddles is one of the funniest movies ever made. And it's just, that's not my vibe. Mel Brooks is not, that's not my
Blazing Saddles is funny.
No, I'm more of a War of the Roses kind of humor person.
Wait, so you didn't like Spaceballs?
No, I don't like that stuff at all.
I told you never to call me on this wall. This is an unlisted wall.
Like if I'm gonna be loving on John Candy, it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I am not.
That's a great movie.
That's a great movie. But I like no. Again, I'm just no. I don't. Mel Brooks is not funny to me any more than the Three Stooges is funny to me. It's the same. It's just that's not funny to me.
Yeah,
that's
he
all
is.
I can tell you.
98 and still going strong. Yep. Hey,
I have nothing personal. honestly, it's nothing personal. I don't know anything personal. His humor is not my thing. That's the best. But again, because that's John Hughes.
That's John Candy. That's John Candy.
Right, but it's a John Hughes movie versus a Mel Brooks situation. So it's a different vibe.
Well, John
Candy.
That heart.
What also, we were just recently talking about how good he was in Stripes.
Yes, Ox. Yeah, no, Harold Ramis was great in Stripes.
Everybody was great. But like
you throw me into this, you're not leaving.
No, but Candy explaining to the guy who wasn't so bright about how it works with the bunk beds and the thing, like, well, if we were in our country, then I would be like, and like you would have to clean up, and I would be like, and it was so, yeah. See, that was funny. That movie was funny.
I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation because we only talk about things that are kind of Debbie Downers. We end up talking about things that are a little bit more enjoyable. Night Shift was a very good movie. I would agree with that.
Name 5 movies in the last 10 years that were funny. It's been a long time. It's been since, I would say for me, since the first Hangover came out, that I saw a movie in the theater that I just thought was so friggin' funny. I couldn't. That and Wedding Crashers sort of were around the same time-ish. Those were really funny, but it's been a while. It's been a while, unless I'm forgetting something. But yeah, it's been a while since something in the theater has been really hilarious.
Well,
because theater movies are now all have to be giant CGI cement busting sequel superhero blockbusters or big franchise movies. That's all you get now. We don't get smart comedies in theaters, and every once in a while, a small movie, a smaller picture will come through.
Yeah, and you really have to wonder if it's on purpose, because I don't think it's that hard. I think you just have to know what you're doing. You just have to know how to write. But it is incredible to me how The Simpsons, I think, are a great barometer of a show that really peaked 25 years ago, and it's still going on.
Agreed. Bridesmaids. That was also quite funny. That was really good. I forgot about that. That was really good.
And part of the reason why I think Bridesmaids succeeded is because Melissa McCarthy, who was never meant to be a star, was a great side character who could work with good material playing off of everybody else.
I like her.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't. What I'm saying is that I don't see her as like the movie star. I see her as somebody who, in an ensemble situation, like Zach Galifianakis, like she would be the female version of Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, but she's had her own movies, several.
I understand that, and I wouldn't say that those movies are good.
Okay, well, I liked her in the one with Jason Bateman. I liked her in the one with, it was ridiculous. She was a fake spy. It was so ridiculous.
You guys want to talk about a funny SNL movie? If you haven't
Identity Thief, right? That was funny.
If you guys haven't seen So I Married an Axe Murderer with Mike Myers, that's a movie that I would highly recommend. Highly recommend. That's where it's at.
I'm just, what'd you say?
So I Married an Axe Murderer.
I mean, no, it's not I'm not a Mike Myers person, really. Like,
I think you would appreciate this one.
Maybe.
That even though I like the Wayne's World movies, but this in particular was really, really good. And it was, interestingly enough, it was the movie that he did after Wayne's World. So it was a complete contrast in a lot of ways. But there were a lot of great side characters that appeared in the movie.
To me, Mike Myers is his best. I mean, I'm not, as anybody could have guessed, I'm probably not an Austin Powers fan. Haven't seen him, don't want to, don't care to. However, I do like him as Shrek.
Have you seen the cranium on that kid? It's like an orange.
Yeah, I don't do Austin Powers. No. Just no.
Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you click that bell. Make sure that you share our live stream. Our channel is growing. We are extremely grateful for all of you being here. Remember, Thursday night, it'll be Jen's last show before she goes off to Europe, to the UK.
I haven't taken off any time, really. Have I ever missed a show? like a couple maybe here and there, like,
yeah,
but not really.
Well, on Thursday, we will have Stephen Donziger. You're definitely going to want to be here for that. We want to hear about what the Zio movement is up to in New York, but also the mayoral race, which is going to be very interesting as Zoran Muadi is, he's neck and neck with with no, excuse me, which Cuomo? Oh,
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about the New York
Andrew
mayor
Cuomo. I'm going to be the
situation.
mayor. I'm going to be mayor of New York City.
New York people, what the fuck? You're giving New York City people, you are giving Florida a run for its money. I am just saying. Like,
Yeah,
you're
the
options, it's pretty freaking ridiculous.
But we appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for your continued support. It means the world. Again, smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. Enough already. We're going. We'll see you Thursday and free Palestine. I beat you to it, and you didn't even say it.